Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. This is the first webinar of two about Agent 365. So I'll get into proper introductions in a second, but today we're going to be looking at the architecture and setup, and we'll keep you posted about what's coming next as well. So if I just kick us off. So who have we got on the call today? And this is just in case you're joining us and you're not familiar with WM and who we are and where we sit. I'm just going to cover that off briefly first. So WM Reply is a Microsoft Solutions partner, and we specialize in everything automation and AI with modern work, and obviously a large ACM capability as well. And we've been really lucky because we've worked really closely with Microsoft as one of just a handful of global launch partners on the release of Agent 365. So we've been getting the news hot off the press, and today we're going to share with you everything we can about what's publicly available so far, and obviously what we've been able to dig around in the background. So personally, I am Toby White. I look after our Agentic AI capability here at WM, and I'm lucky to be joined today by my colleague Pavel. If you could just say a few words.
Hey everyone, hello, my name is Pavel and I'm lead software developer at WM Reply, and I will support Toby today with deep dive to technical things.
Yeah, so I'm going to sort of give us an overview of what you're going to see and what it looks and feels like, with a bit of a tour. And then we're going to show you some of the new terms, and Pavel's going to take us really deep into sort of how it works in the background, how it all fits together. So hopefully there's something for everyone. But we'll cover the proper agenda in a couple of slides' time. Okay, so just a quick sort of zoom out on Reply in case you're not familiar with the Reply model. We're WM, we focus on everything Microsoft and modern work, as I mentioned, but we actually sit alongside lots of sister companies that all specialize in different areas of tech. So not just Microsoft, not just modern work, but all things, and obviously a large focus across the network is on AI these days, but there's over 16,000 people across the more than 190 consultancies in the network, and as you can see a few more stats there. But back to today's focus. So what's the agenda of today's call? First of all, we're going to give you like a little bit of a brief overview of the concept of Agent 365 before I'm going to actually show you what it looks and feels like in real time. And we've got like a sandbox tenant spun up. So it's got like a limited amount of agents that I can click around and show you the experience. And I'm then going to hand over to Pavel to take us through sort of architecture fundamentals and how it fits together in the background, and how you go about integrating with Agent 365. So how do you actually use it to start manifesting your agents from wherever they're built? And then at the end, we're going to cover licensing. So what the practical sort of considerations of rolling it out. And finally, some FAQs or address any questions you've had. And then a little signpost to the next webinar in the series. Okay, so before we get stuck in again, just an overview of Microsoft's AI journey over the last few years. So obviously Copilot was released, M365 Copilot in 2023. And then since then, it sort of spread to be more, well, what we used to call it extensibility came into the frame, where it started integrating across Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And then Copilot Studio was launched in 2024, which for some people on call may remember Power Virtual Agents, which essentially it started as a reskinning of that tech, but obviously with the focus now being on AI and integrating with Copilot. And then towards the end of last year at Ignite, there was lots of new cool functionality that was announced. And since then, we've slowly started seeing it sort of trickle into general availability, including from the 1st of this month, Agent 365 became general availability. And that might be a new icon to you there, but that's the logo for Agent 365 on the right-hand side. Right, so 2 key themes to hold on to throughout this presentation. Firstly, so Agent 365 is a control plane. So it's not somewhere you will go to build an agent or anything agentic. You will keep building them wherever you're building them across your org. But this is where they become visible and governed, and where you'll sort of secure them and observe them as an admin. Secondly, so it's a platform for every agent to become visible and governable in one place. You might hear us say things like it's a single pane of glass, or pane of glass as Microsoft calls it. And the ambition here is to give you somewhere, regardless of if you've got agents that are popping up across different platforms, you can see them all in the same screen. Okay, so admin tool section, as I said, going to start off just conceptually, then I'm going to actually share my screen and have a click around. So what is Agent 365? So it's not like a parallel governance product, but it's actually a lens on top of 3 foundations that you probably already operate. So you've got Microsoft Entra ID, which is where agent identities, blueprints, and all the sort of data actually lives. We'll cover what those terms mean a bit later on. And that's your single source of truth. So whenever you change something about an agent, the change is recorded in Entra, and Agent 365 will be surfacing it. And the second one is Purview. This is where all your DLP, or data loss prevention rules, sensitivity labels, audit records, and that sort of data lives, and you can manage that. And again, it just surfaces that everything to do with like agentic context will be visible and manageable through Agent 365. And then finally, there's Microsoft Defender with the Compliance Center. So this is where you see your sort of threat signals or anomaly detection and policy violations. So it just sort of focuses whatever key elements from across those different platforms. It gives you an easy place to sort of manage agents across those different portals, if that makes sense. So if you're already running like Entra, Purview, and Defender, then you already have like sort of the muscle for managing agents through this. And what do we actually do with it? So it's a new admin surface, but it gives IT one place to manage everything, as we've said, including those that have built, for example, in AWS Bedrock, Google Vertex, and partner-built agents or any other sort of third parties, and surfacing them up in your M365 tenant. And so observing is about every agent, every surface, every cloud, with the data behind it, the errors and risk signals. Governing, so again, talking about sort of blueprints, lifecycle status, and who owns what or who sponsors what, and we'll talk about the difference there in a little while. And approvals, the things that the admins might need to action. And then finally, there's the security side of it. So looking at the Entra Agent ID side, awareness of your sensitivity labels and auditing and lifecycle records from Purview, and threat signals from Defender, and so on. Okay. So without further ado, the bit we're all sort of waiting for, I'm just going to tab over to my browser where I've got Agent 365 open. So if you've not seen it before, this is what it looks like. If I go from the homepage of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can see it on the left-hand side. You might recognize our tiny icon there that we were showing over at the start. And if I go to my overview, you can see it is just that. It is your sort of key signals. So at the top, we've got some key stats about how many agents are in the org, different like active user stats, how much work is being done through like out-of-the-box calculations across that network of agents. Obviously, this is just our sort of sandbox play tenant that's relatively new, where we've been spinning up some agents that we don't mind sharing on this call, as opposed to sort of our internal like experiments and POCs. And that registry sync in the top right there, that relates to if you've got a registry in, for example, Amazon Web Services, then it shows you how many of those different external registers or agents are synced up to your Agent 365. This middle actions panel here is where you can see the like IT admin actions that are pending. So if you've got agents that people are trying to publish and they need you to sort of go in and check who it's being shared with, and before it gets made available across your organization, you can click into that to manage those requests. Any agents at risk, so again, those signals that might be flowing in from Entra, this would highlight where those areas are in the bits that you need to zoom into, basically. And you've got agents without owners, so we haven't got any at the moment, but these orphaned agents, which could create a governance gap down the line. So if someone leaves the business having created something, it's the kind of thing you want to know about pretty early, just in case it's got privilege access and there's a chance that other people could be indirectly using it and that sort of stuff. Agents with exceptions is where there's errors that are popping up in people's conversations. So it's a bit more of just a diagnostics tool to see where an agent has started to break. And you can zoom in again to see exactly what activity has occurred to create that error. And then down the bottom, you've got to see where like the agents are actually being built. So sort of where the creators are building them and the amount of users you've got across those different platforms and that sort of stuff. Okay, but let's go into the all agents view. And initially, so this is your sort of flat register of all of the agents in your tenant. As you can see, I've got some from Amazon Bedrock that are here, as well as all the ones that have been created across these different platforms. You can see there's platforms, how many risks have been identified, the amount of active users and total sessions, and so on. Okay, and again, there's this registry sync wizard that I can use here to pull in data from other platforms as well. Okay, I can filter this, or I can search for particular agents if I need to. So for example, I can type in procurement and I can filter down my register. Okay, the other interesting new view we've got is this map view. So if I take over here for a second, I'm just going to reset my search. And this shows me in like a really rich interactive display, a map of all the agents across the different platforms. So I can zoom in to see, for example, my Copilot Studio and see how many live within there versus my Amazon Bedrock ones that I've manifested in here earlier. And then there's the Microsoft like first party agents, we call them. So the ones that come down the line from Microsoft themselves. Then our third party ones. I'll leave that to load. Oh, it's just bugging out for me on the demo, of course. But yeah, some of this is still in preview, so expect a few sort of niggles like that. And then so on, but I won't go and expand each of these individually, and obviously Foundry as well. But if we go back to the standard registry, and I'm just going to find my procurements ops assistant, and I'm going to show you this CRM. So this is another like third-party agent that's been manifested, but it's got some quite rich information, so I can show you the information panel here. So as I've clicked on agent, I can start leafing through all these different tabs about this agent's details. So I've got like a user-facing description of the agent, and then I've got the key stats about who owns it, where it was published from, and then I'll show you in a second. But you could see if this was a custom agent on the M365 tenant, you can see what the creator has put for their instructions, and obviously look at the identity and environment information as well. Users, so this is where I could control the scope of users that can access the agent. Data and tools, so similarly, it shows me like if it's connected to MCP servers and things like that, or what knowledge sources it's using, then I can manage that here. So if I'm seeing some of those signals on the top page that are sort of catching my eye, then I can really pull apart the agent here through this details viewer. Again, for security, and this is really just pulling through from Purview and Entra with whatever's related to this agent's activity, and obviously highlighting where there might be actions you need to take. And again, permissions. So this goes down to like the API level permissions. So if you've got Microsoft Graph permissions in your agent, then you can see everything this has got access to. Certifications. This is quite a new section of it, but it's essentially like a self-assessment that the builder will do, where they'll fill out how their handling data or how they're following security and governance processes. So this is just what that developer has attested to. And you can see there's like options to download the evidence as well. So as an admin, if it's a particularly significant agent, I might want to look at this quite closely, as opposed to just something that people are playing around with. And then finally, there's the activity, which I'll show on the next one as well. So if I open up my procurement ops agent, this has actually been built on the tenant in Copilot Studio. Wasn't actually built by me, but I assigned myself as the owner using this assign a new owner function. So again, if it's something's been orphaned or if it's owned by the wrong person, then you can use that as the admin to switch it over. And if I open up my instructions, I can see this is exactly what has been typed into the agent when they were building it in Copilot Studio. And again, I can see sort of environment information here and all the stuff we could see before. If I look over to activity, and I can see this kind of visual. Obviously, it's all very fresh data, but these are kind of graphs you can expect to see, and I can download a CSV of that if I want to do my own analysis. You can actually also handily export this whole list as a CSV. So if you want to, again, like run your own reports in Excel and so on, and then you can do that over here as well. Okay, and I think that is about us for the admin look around. So I'm now going to hand over to Pavel to take us through the architecture fundamental side of things.
Thank you, Toby. Give me a second to share my screen. Yeah. So Toby explained us how admin center looks for common admin. And now let's speak about the behind what we have in our additional part of Agent CC5 in Agent Enter Agent ID. What is it? Microsoft Enter Agent ID, it's a new extension for our classic Enter ID, which brings for us new capabilities for agents. The main purpose of this extension, the unified and standard management of our agents, because every day we build more and more agents. In behind this extension has the Agent Identity platform, and this platform provides for us the set of specialized identity constructs for AI agents. Other words, how our agents looks like in our Enter ID. Also, this platform provides for us the standard approaches for security and governance, for standard approaches for authentication and authorization for our agents and agent management. So technically, if you speak about classic Enter ID, how we manage users and applications, now we have the new extension, Agent ID, which takes the classic experience and map into our AI agents. We will go with demo, how it looks in Enter ID, but before it, let's go with our structure, what we have in the behind of identity platform. This diagram, which represents the core structure for our Agent ID. We have 4 core concepts here, which we can see in our Agent ID. Agent identity blueprint, blueprint principal, agent identity, and user account. Let's discuss how each component communicate and related with other component. And let's start from top. Agent identity blueprint, what is it? This is an Enter ID object. For us, it's a template and authentication foundation object. This object is responsible for the couple of core things which we have in our agent. The first thing is the credentials. All credentials which used by our agent stored within this blueprint. Our other objects don't have any credentials. They use credentials only from blueprint. Also, when we create the new agent, we create a blueprint for this agent. We will use blueprint to configure some standard set of permissions and app roles, we use Blueprint for the security and policies assignment. Blueprint becomes for us as a template which deliver the same set of configuration, permissions, security, and policies for every agent what was created using this blueprint. One more thing which will be specifically only for this object, blueprint can be internal or external. Internal, it means we created this blueprint for us on our tenant and we just use it on our tenant. It's a single tenant blueprint. Also, we can want potentially to publish our blueprint globally. And in this case, our blueprint will be called multi-tenant. We can create it. Every blueprint has associated object, blueprint principal. Blueprint principal is an object which we have on every tenant where we have our blueprint. Doesn't matter, we created it internally or we decided to use some external template, external blueprint. The good sample will be the Copilot Studio agents blueprint, which is a Microsoft provided and managed, and for us, for every tenant, it will be the external. But on our side, on every tenant, we will have blueprint. Blueprint has two main roles and responsible for two things. It's a token. It's the mechanism how we authenticate from our agents to our systems. Because all credentials stored in the blueprint, our identities use credentials from this blueprint. And our principal participates in the token execution. And our token claims will reference to this blueprint. Other words, if you have multiple tenants and you have some external blueprint, when you will authenticate from every tenant and grab these credentials from blueprint, the token will have information about principal on your tenant. And it's important for audit logging as well. When we create any identities for our internal, external blueprint, all logs about our operations will be referenced and associated with particular blueprints on our principals on our tenants. The next object is an agent identity. This again single tenant service principal. This is what sits only on your tenant when you create an agent. And this principal has a special subtype agent. So this is not just a classic service principal, what we can see in classic entry ID. This blueprint, this agent identity, this service principal is responsible for the authentication and authorization in our identity and in our agent. Our agent uses this identity and federated credentials take, and behalf of this identity goes to blueprint, and using blueprint credentials goes to our resources. So we go through the bottom to top in the authentication process. Agent identity always has a blueprint. You can't create identity without it. Agent identity will have sponsors and owners and doesn't have any credentials. Also, we have one more object, which in the most cases will be optional. This agent's user account. If we just create the classic agent where we want to operate behalf of user or behalf of some application permissions, we don't need agentic user account. If we want to create the new type of agents, which called AI teammate, and work with our agent like with user, when you type and you can see our something for your agent, and you see your agent as a teammate, as a, let's say, like a real user, which can perform own work like a user, we need AI teammate. In this case, the mandatory thing to have the agent user's account. This is a new, pretty interesting object which changed the strategy and philosophy of the entry ID, because this is the mix of service principal and user identity. But this is not a real user, but we will see it like a user. What we should know about this account? First thing, this under Frontier program now, so it's not a global available thing. Also, this approach, when we want to create item, requires the explicit creation process, because by default our blueprints don't have options to create the special identities with these users' accounts. Also, this account doesn't have any regular credentials such as password or other credentials. Authentication happen via the federated credentials and relationship with part identity, our agent identity, and goes from bottom to top. Also, the fundamental thing here, our teammates have in behind agents users accounts, and these accounts can be added to the Microsoft 365 groups, can have own roles, own permissions, and work like real users with our resources. Every account must have own manager. Now let's speak about the roles of real users in this system. And in our agent ID, enter agent ID system, we have three main roles: owners, sponsors, and managers. Owners, the technical administrator who will be responsible for the administrative work in the agent identity blueprints or agent identities, such as setup, configuration, credentials management. Sponsors, they are more business role, the people who are responsible for vision and purpose of agents, for lifecycle decisions. Do we need this agent? Do we need new agent? And how we will improve our agents. Managers is a special role for our agent user accounts. These people becomes as line managers of our user accounts, agent user accounts, and will be responsible for requesting access for these accounts and overseeing these accounts, how they work. Also, let's discuss two concepts. As I previously mentioned it, we have some classic agents and we have AI teammates. What's the difference? Our previous versions of agents on behalf of agents. These agents works behalf of user with delegated permissions, or these agents can work with the application permissions behalf of application. And usually we have all the agents registered as Android applications, new agents registered with agent identity blueprints. But we have the new kind of agent, which will go, which now is in preview under Frontier program, AI teammate. The key difference here, how these two agents works. In AI teammate work behalf on own user identity. As I mentioned it, this identity, user identity, agent user account can have own mailbox, can work through Teams, can have access to the SharePoint, to other services, to Outlook, can have access to services through Entra ID groups, can have own roles and trade roles. And this agent works as a user, and people work with this agent like with user in our system. Now let me change my screen and let's go through the virtual tour. What we have in our entry admin center. We have the new tab, which called agents, and this tab provides for us three main views. The overall view, On this view, we can see the total metrics on our tenant, how many agent identities we have, when we created it, what identities do not have any owners or sponsors and become as unmanaged, what identity active, what agent user accounts we have for our AI teammates. Also, we have the summary on our tenant regarding agent blueprints. How many blueprints we have, how many internal, how many external, what blueprints we used previously. And let's go with agent blueprints now. If we go with agent blueprints, we can see the list of all blueprints on our tenant. We can see status and see the number of associated identities with these blueprints. On this screen, you can see Microsoft Copilot agent identity blueprint, some blueprints of my Foundry agents, and custom agent blueprint. Let's go with the Copilot Studio blueprint. As I mentioned, this is an external blueprint, so we can see only tag here, agent blueprint principal. It means we don't have our blueprint here, we just reuse some external in our tenant. And we can see the disclaimer, yeah, we have some limited functionality. When we use external blueprints, we can't change a lot of things, such as owners, for example, because owners become from external tenants, credentials as well. This is not a part what we can manage, we just use it. But at the same time, we have our principal, which like a bridge between our tenant and external blueprint to authenticate to agent and via agent resources. On this screen, we can see list of agent identities linked to our blueprint. If you go back and, for example, open custom agent blueprint, we will see a bit another picture. Here we see two tags, principal and blueprint. It means it's my internal blueprint. I created it on my tenant, and also I have a principal which connect my identities with my blueprint. And here I have more options to manage. I can put owners, sponsors, I can manage blueprint principal, I can update permissions, I can, as an admin, I can manage credentials, what used by my agents for authentication authorization to required sources. If we go to the linked identities, we can see a list of identities assigned for particular blueprint. Agent identities. Here the list of all identities, what I have on this demo tenant, without any filtering, just a list. So I advise to use, if you need to find some particular identity, to use the blueprint and go through blueprint layer. In this case, I can open easily the identity what I need to open and find easily. Let's discuss our identities, what we can see on the screen. Why I opened the AI teammate identity? Because as I mentioned, this type of agent requires the user account. If you open the classic agent, we will see just the identity without mapping with account, but UI will be the same. What we have on this UI, we have full information about our identity, sponsors, owners, association with blueprint. We can see permissions assigned to this identity also. And specifically for our AI teammate agent, we see the additional button, view agent user. And we were navigated to the classic experience, this users tab from classic entry ID, and we see the user, but it's not a common user. You can see agents user account. And what we will see here, we will see a reference to our agent identity. Also, this account can be a member of groups, can have assigned roles, and this account must have at least one license now. You can't create an account without Frontier license. Let's go back to our presentation and discuss next things. As we saw in our admin experience, we discussed some custom agents. We saw blueprints for the Foundry agents and for Copilot Studio agents, but we didn't see, for example, blueprints for AI Builder, or not AI Builder, Agent Builder, sorry. We didn't see some blueprints for external agents. And what is the difference? Let's discuss now. And now we will see the big picture, like a matrix, which provides for us the overview how our platforms connected with Agency 5. Not all platforms have full capability, full integration with Agency 5. Most popular platforms, for example, Copilot Studio, automatically integrated to the Agency 5, Agent Builder integrated as well, and Foundry Agent, our classic agents which we created using no-code approach, also automatically integrated to the Agency 5 system. Custom agent requires development and manual configuration or configuration through SLI. Bedrock and Vertex agents, the external non-Microsoft agents which can be synchronized but can't be managed through Agency 5 now, and external agents in a preview now. Let's go through each parameter. What does mean auto-integrated for platform integration? It means you don't need to do anything. When you create your agent in Copilot Studio, Agent Builder, or Foundry, the agent will appear in Agency 5 and enter agent ID. What will happen in behind if our for Copilot Studio we already have external blueprint. For new agent, the agent identity will be automatically created and assigned for this single blueprint. For the agent builder, we don't have any integrations with agent ID. We will not have any information about it. This is a lightweight agent, and we will have this agent only in the list of agents, but without relations with blueprint identities. If you speak about Foundry, the same. When you create your agent first time, it will become, it will be added to our Agency 5 and enter agent ID systems. The core difference here between platforms will be in the agent identity blueprints and agent identities structure. Copilot, single blueprint, all agents have identities and all mapped to the single blueprint. Agent Builder don't have any blueprints and agent identities. We just see information about this agent. Microsoft Foundry, every time when you create a new Foundry project, it will create own identity and these blueprints. Every time when you add a new agent to Foundry, it will create again new blueprint and agent identity. And when every time you deploy this agent to Microsoft 365 Copilot, it will create the new blueprint with new identity as well. So system looks like a bit complex because for every of popular platform we have our own aspects and rules. Custom agent, this is an approach when we build our code agents through code, when we deploy it in some Azure or AWS or Google services in the cloud. We use the Agents 5 SDK and Agents SDK to follow the infrastructure approach and rules how we communicate between our tenant and our code. Also, we need to go with special steps how to create blueprints and how to create identities. This is not happen automatically. One more important thing is observability and monitoring. This is how our activity in agents track to systems, to our system, to our Agents 5, to Purview, to Defender. If you speak about Copilot, Agent Builder, and no-code Foundry agents, it's auto-integrated feature. You don't need to do anything. If you speak about Foundry hosted agents, which are custom agents, just hosting in Foundry, and our custom agents, we need to use special framework, ASys5 observability framework, to instrument our observability and logging. You can see efforts from no code to full code. And I automate this a new type of agents. Currently, we have ability to create these automates only for Foundry hosted agents and for custom agents. Let's go with automate agent, how we can develop it. It will require the technical skill. We need to have some prerequisites. We need to have our project, which can be implemented on Python, Node.js, or .NET. Also, we need to have special roles because we will operate with and work with entry ID and entry agent ID. We need to have a global administrator role and agent developer role. But anyway, global admin is required to make permission grants. There are two really high-level explanations how we can develop and deploy our custom agent as a teammate and work with our custom code like with user. There are two steps will be applicable for the classic agents as well. The difference will be in parameters and steps and in one post-deployment step. For automate, we need to create our instances through Microsoft Teams app catalog. The first option, how we can do it, it's an AI coding agent and AI guided setup. This is what Microsoft done maybe 2 weeks ago. They replaced the not easy way how to go manually through steps by steps and configure our project by the instructions for AI coding agent. You just need to have Visual Studio or other idea with GitHub Copilot license and ability to run AI coding agent with terminal access. You just need to type one prompt and mention the link cat.ms Agencies 5 enable. This link will provide for agents the really good detailed instructions and plan how to check your code, how to prepare blueprint in your system, what you want to do, and you will not do anything from your side. Agent will do everything instead of you. You just need to make one post-deployment step, create automates instances in Teams. If we go with manual step, it's not recommended by Microsoft, but if you need to build some CI/CD pipelines, some scripts, or you don't have ability to use it AI, you can go manually through through scripts, through the Azure 365 SLI, and step by step configure your system. Run setup requirements to configure your tenant and check can you use SLI on your tenant. Runs the command setup all for blueprint configuration. It will prepare everything behalf of your permissions. You create blueprint, assign permissions, make permission grants. After that, you need to deploy your code in some cloud service and prepare your manifest using publish command and make the same post-deployment step for automate instance. And that's all from technical deep dive. And now Toby will explain us the licensing model and how it works from this side. Toby?
Thanks very much, Pavel. So yeah, as I said, we're just going to sort of cover the structure of licensing and how that all works. So without further ado, so there's three ways to purchase Agent 365. First of all, there's the bolt-on. So whatever licensing plan you're already on, you can add this for $11.50. And these are all the list prices. So you've got to contact your Microsoft account reps to actually get the pricing for your org. But the standard off-the-shelf price is £11.50. And this gives you your if you like, your cheapest bolt-on access point to get Agent 365. Next up, obviously, if you're using Teams, you'd have you can bundle it with E7, which includes your Copilot, E5, Agent 365, and Teams. So that's it's a slightly discounted price to get it all in one package. And then obviously, if you're an organization that doesn't use Teams, use Slack or whatever else, then perhaps you'd consider the without Teams option instead. So the whole model is that we license the users, the humans, not the agents. So as long as the sponsor or the owner of, as Pavel has been describing, as long as the human involved has got a license, then that's all we need to worry about for now. And when we talk, well, I'll reiterate on what OBO agents are in a second, but essentially on behalf agents as a human, if I've got an E7 or I'm licensed with Agent 365, then I can have as many of those agents that I sponsor as I want. And we don't have to worry about the blueprints and instances that Pavel was talking about earlier, as far as licensing is concerned. It's the same concept around multiplexing, so you can't pool licenses to one user and have them sort of owning everything so that you only pay for one license, and that's still sort of out of compliance scenario. But the simple sort of recommendation from Microsoft is that anyone who interacts with an agent that is governed in Agent 365 should have a license. And that will typically apply to all of your M365 Copilot users. Okay, so what actually happens if you do not have the Agent 365 license? So you will still be able to see it in the admin center. So you'll get your list of agents and your inventory there, and you get some basic insights across the other apps you might be using today, where the usage is happening. And you do still have some of those admin governance actions, but the Agent 365 license really extends the capability we see across those sort of connected platforms, Purview and Entra and Defender and so on. They all will be extended to the activity that's being conducted by agents, especially even more so when we move towards this agentic user situation living inside our organization. So if I just cover that now on the next slide. So as we've touched architecturally, we've got these OBO on behalf of agents which run under my context, under my permissions, whatever I've got access to, and covered by my licensing. And that's what we're used to today. That's in general availability. That's what everyone's more familiar with. And then this thing that's coming around the corner is this concept of autonomous or AI teammates. So that's the ones that they'll look and feel like and behave like a human colleague. They will manifest like that when you're using Teams, and that includes sort of proactivity. So if they've got some sort of autonomous behavior going on, and those are the ones that will own that side of the operation. Okay, and we're still waiting to see some of the details around the licensing model for that. But for now, we just worry about as a person that looks after agents or interacts with agents. As long as I am governed, then or I am licensed, then my activity is governable and visible to the admins. And that is about that. So I think we can stop now for some questions if there's any in the chat, or anything anyone wants to come off mute and raise, and we'll do our best to respond.
Thank you, Toby. There is one question already that was posed. It says, in large organizations, the Agent 365 overview is restricted to IT teams or IT admin groups. Is it possible to get a similar view per team/function without the risk of breaking everything in the background? This is some very interesting data you can get from this view.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I guess because fundamentally Agent 365 lives within the Microsoft Admin Center, so it's only going to be present if you have access to that site as a tenant admin. So The answer is no. It won't be like an out of the box view that you can get at a team level, and in fact, the reporting that you get within Agent 365 won't let you just filter departmentally out of the box. But obviously, the data exists, and you could run your own dashboards and reports based on that information. So if you wanted to have like a filterable, like cross-departmental view of like what agent activity is happening where, and then that would be something you'd have to build over the top of that as like a custom interface. I don't know if Pavel, you had anything to add to that.
I think the same. We will not be able to customize admin dashboard, but again, all information regarding agents stored in the behind. We have purview, we have defender. We can take in graph analytic and build some dashboards here. Also, per team, per function view, I don't think it's applicable for agents because our agents works across tenants. We can make something per blueprint, for example, and use agent identities, agent entities, let's say, how we operate agent identities, blueprints, and use it for our grouping, not some digital departments or company departments. Yeah.
Yeah, if that answers the question. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more come in, but yeah, there are a few things we're still tracking with Microsoft. So what this licensing situation is going to be like in greater detail when that agentic user persona comes into play, and what that looks like across the different build platforms, and also when we're bringing in registries from elsewhere, so AWS and Vertex and so on, if there's any sort of limits or considerations around mapping those registries in Agent 365. So that's some of the areas we're still looking at. And obviously we've got the second part of this series coming up soon, which is more about like the tying agent activity and governance into business outcomes and like the business side of it, or the value side, and also like adoption signals and some of the more like adoption and change management aspects of this. And also looking at FinOps as well. So I'll hold for any further ads. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up.
Another question has been posed on the back of the other one, and it says, will AI administrator role have any play in agent identities?
Say that again, sorry.
Will AI administrator role have any play in agent identities?
Good question. How have you got a response to that?
It's a good question. In current moment, it's a bit limited, but admin will be responsible for permissions for management identity itself. But in current moment, maybe most administrator tasks will be related with blueprint, where admin can configure access roles, can manage credentials. Blueprint identity, it's more fixed layer, not so flexible now. Did I answer?
I believe, yeah, I believe so. And there's no more written questions.
Okay, great. Well, in that case, I think we'll wrap up there. Thanks very much for joining. Hopefully this is sort of what you expected to get out of the session. We are still obviously chasing down some of those details, and do let us know if there's areas of confusion or areas you want us to help clarify, and we can factor that into what we cover next time as well. So hopefully we'll see you at the next one as well. But thanks, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you all. Have a good day.